trying to figure out what do I want to talk about. I like to, on this channel, try to keep it fun. I like to try to keep it cultural. If you've been watching, you probably noticed that I don't talk much about the war in Ukraine. I have mentioned it a couple times, briefly, just, in that I don't believe that, they should be getting all the support, from American tax dollars the way that they do. They're not a NATO ally, and I think that we should be licking our wounds, so to speak, while we recover after 25 years of war in the Middle East. For me, going back to Desert Storm, so it goes back even longer than that, but that was my first experience with war. 25 years, we finally bring our boys home, in a terrible way, and when Biden evacuated Afghanistan and left everything behind. And so basically I wish them the best, but that's their territory. And I don't feel like my country, Americans are obligated to fit that bill with our tax dollars. We got a lot of problems here, and we could be using that to, like I said before, lick our wounds, so to speak, and heal up before, the inevitable next one happens, right? It seems like there's always something on the horizon, Lord forbid, never another new war doesn't pop up. But, with what we've all experienced this weekend, and if you're like me, if you're on Twitter or X, your brain might be a little numb to what you've seen. I don't want to say I wasn't ready for it, but really I don't think anybody was. And I don't think we should be ready for news like this. And so I've been trying to figure out what I want to say about it. And frankly, I don't have any opinions other than stand by what our country's, obligation should be as far as, what's on paper or, been agreed to, just it's pretty much the only position I can have if I want to stay principled in that, what I said about Ukraine, and that I don't think we should be over there spending tax dollars on it because they're not a NATO ally. But ultimately, what I feel in my heart is, call me a hippie or whatever, but I don't want any more wars. I don't want any new wars. I don't believe in, feeding the military industrial complex. I'm tired of seeing people leave this planet too soon. But anyways, trying to find something more lighthearted, more U.S. related at least, as I try to stay more focused on the cultural side of things, to have some of the things that we can control as individuals with our own lives, like being physically fit and able to run down the street and get away if you need to. Learn what's local to you and what grows easy. That's the best way. From my experience, it's hard to grow something here in Florida that's just meant to grow up north. Find the things that are more indigenous to your area, and those things will be easier to grow. Little gardening tip that I know as a novice. Arnold Schwarzenegger slams border crisis and blames stupid immigration system, which is set up to commit a crime during his appearance on The View. So the former California governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger, if I was him, I'd be preferred to be introduced as the Terminator. Arnold Schwarzenegger weighed in on the ongoing migrant crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border and had some strong words about how officials are handling the situation. Whatever, personally, there's only one Terminator. There's a bunch. The Terminator slammed policies that have allowed more than 2.8 million to cross this year alone and called for reform as a result. Citing his own heritage as an immigrant, the 76-year-old said during an appearance on Monday's The View that there was no single solution to the country's current woes, but criticized the current lax conditions at the nearly 2,000-mile-long crossing. He aired a desire for a more rigid border that is not so easily traversed, as well as his belief that asylum seekers should be granted visas so they can work here legally. It's a stupid system, the aging actor said, set up to commit a crime. I totally agree with asylum seekers getting visas. They should get them right away. They shouldn't get a court date set up for next year or next month even. They should probably be pushed through while they're being processed if they're truly seeking asylum. We should take care of these asylum seekers. But the problem is the way that our laws are written, and I have a feeling they're going to go into this, is that they're allowed to be exploited by saying you're seeking asylum. The thing about it, from what I understand about doing that, is you have to actually be from the bordering country. And a lot of people understand, and it is my belief that there are more people crossing this border not the majority, but there are more people crossing the border illegally than just Mexican residents, which is the bordering country. You know, if they're coming from a country south of there, their bordering country would be Mexico. Therefore, they should seek asylum in Mexico per the laws that it's written. If I'm wrong about that, correct me. I'm not a professional asylum seeker, but from what I understand, that's pretty much how that basic arrangement is supposed to go. But folks that are from Mexico could seek asylum here in the United States because we're the neighboring border. I don't know what type of case they have to present. I would assume they have to present some type of case that their government or, I don't know, seek to unjustly imprison them, right? You're seeking refuge in another country because you're unfairly, illegally being targeted. But I don't know. Let's just continue. The storied actor at first prefaced how he was in the middle of the road over the issue after being asked about it by Navarro. A political strategist herself, Navarro 51, aloud said, "You are one of the country's most famous immigrants and a former two-term Republican governor at California back when Republicans were sane." Of course, right? You got to have the little jab, you know? We just got to take the jab because we're Republicans, right? I mean, I don't know. I say it weird, but I don't even know if I'm technically a Republican. I should probably do one of those political IQ tests, but from here, there's only about a handful of folks that I really throw my support behind in the House of Representatives, in Congress, and whatnot, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of bad people on both sides, is pretty much what I'm more concerned about. I would prefer good people to choose from on both sides. Just simply say, you know, it's pretty obvious. I guess it should be at least, but she went on to ask, "When do you think about the current immigration crisis? Because you have such a unique perspective in what's going on at the border." After a brief pause where the actor turned politician appeared to consider the question, he offered a thoughtful response. "I've seen firsthand how this is not a one-kind step of approach." He began after being asked about President Joe Biden's recently aired plans to build 20 miles of border wall within Texas' Rio Grande Valley, a popular point of crossing. The decision announced Thursday puzzled many as the 80-year-old head of state had campaigned heavily on promises that he would never build another foot of the wall, unlike his predecessor, Donald Trump. You know, who would have thought a Democrat lied to get elected? Not to say the Republicans don't. There's that one dude that pretty much lied about everything in New York, but I can't think of his name right now. I did a video back in the day, though, so you can go watch it if you want to look through. You have to really have comprehensive immigration reform, and you have to look at this immigration problem in a comprehensive way. Number one, he said, was that he believes very strongly in having a border that no one can get through. That's number one for me, the retired bodybuilder said. Excuse me, the Terminator said. Good Lord. Gotta correct you so many times. Get this opportunity. Said the Terminator. Number two, he said, is that we have visas available for people who want to work in the United States so they don't have to work illegally. The assertion, coming from a native Austrian who immigrated to America in 1968. Austria, huh? Well, let's put another shrimp on the barbie. Sorry, I had to do it. But he did not become a citizen until 1983. Came days after New York's Governor Kathy Hochul announced that 18,000 jobs are now available to select migrants. The move was designed to authorize them for work more quickly, as cities continue to deal with an influx of newcomers. While some conservatives slammed the move, Schwarzenegger didn't agree. "It is bogus," he said, and the fact that lawmakers are still opposed to such a measure given the country's current labor shortage. "We need the workers here," he added, welcoming other efforts to help connect willing migrants with workplaces that will employ them. He proceeded to slam the current system in place as stupid, claiming it's set up to further divide Americans and fuel already ongoing crime. It's kind of relative. That's been brought up. You know, how many of those folks might be over here? My initial thought was, oh, wow, that's kind of scary. But I thought about it. And, you know, those two sides have been at war for decades, centuries. Each other are their enemies. I don't think America would be as high on the list. So I'm not as concerned, but I am concerned about who else. Maybe not the same groups, or neither of these groups involved, but, who else could maybe be coming through these open borders with not the best intentions. You know what I mean? And so maybe that's so that's something to think about and consider. But I like to believe that folks that come to America do want to assimilate to a point, because this is the place where you can believe whatever you want to believe and be free of that persecution from the government. That's why we have the Constitution. And so anyways, this other one from the Daily Mail. McCarthy warns the U.S. could be next. Chaos at the southern border could have allowed terrorists to infiltrate America. Former speaker warns and calls on Biden to wake up. Okay, so McCarthy's back in the news. And he says something that you agree with. That, to use Tim Pool, Ian Crossland phrase, he either rolls a 0 or he rolls a 20. I don't know if this is actually rolling a 20, but if you know that reference, hit the like button. But I feel like sometimes McCarthy does pop up here every once in a while and say something that I'm like, yeah, man, I get with that. Let's check it out. The United States must urgently resolve the chaos at the U.S.-Mexico border, Kevin McCarthy has warned, and succumbing to a similar attack to that in Israel this weekend. McCarthy, who until last week served as Speaker of the House, told the Washington Free Beacon on Monday that the attack should be a wake-up call for the White House, and blamed the Biden administration for emboldening Iran to back the plot. And that's something that we've recently, I seen a headline of that, was given the okay, I guess, or whatever. So, correct me if I'm wrong. I just read a headline on that one. Like I said, I've been soaking up so much information about this. My mind became kind of numb, and I didn't really know what I wanted to say about this. It's horrific, and I just want it to stop. I know that. And not knowing a whole lot about what's going on over there, I try to just stay up on U.S. affairs, for the most part. Internally, things that I can try to help control or affect maybe. But he pointed out that the known terrorists have already been found among those claiming to be migrants. And those people could actually maybe be trying to escape that way of life, and they come to America to be free. I mean, I picture that as an American dream to some people, if they've come over here and assimilated and they're Americans, especially. As of July, 160 migrants whose identities match those on the terrorist screening database were stopped by Customs and Border Protection at the southern border, a significant increase on the 100 in fiscal year 2022. NBC News reported last month. Fiscal years end on September 30th. Okay, and these folks are on a terrorist screening database. Of course, I would like them questioned, monitored if they're going to be let in. The federal government is supposed to protect us from, foreign. That, I think, is their main duty. It should be, at least, is I feel like they should get that right before they start worrying about other stuff, I guess. We should wake up ourselves. We could have the same thing happen next week to us, McCarthy said. We caught more people on the terrorist watch list in Friday than we caught in the entire administration. We could have cells sitting inside of America right now. And that's a warning from a government leader that we should probably be properly defending ourselves as often as possible and protecting our borders. And plus, there's a lot of bad people just anyways. This one's been really long. I hope you appreciated it, and if you stayed to the end, man, thank you so much. As I said before, I wanted to try to keep it more lighthearted. I didn't do such a good job of that. That's just what's going on right now. And I could have either talked about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift or this, Thank you for being here. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.